Karen Reed trial was in session today. Joseph Krowski Jr., what a great name. Krowski, Boston criminal defense attorney, outspoken on behalf of the prosecution. From the coverage that I have seen, not only that, he was a classmate of our mutual friend Chris O'Donnell at Boston College, I believe. They were Eagles together. And the great John Hayes, Chris's buddy. Krowski, am I right about that? You went to Boston College with the boys, yeah?
You're right about all of that, Billy. Thanks for having me.
All right, and I like a powerful Boston accent. I was promised one, and here we go. And I'm going to stay out of my New York accent because I'm born and raised there. That comes out only when I've been drinking, and I haven't been drinking yet, Joe. Okay? So not yet. But what is amazing to me, Joe, I really feel like there's no counter effort to find the real assailant of John O'Keefe. And you may roll your eyes at this, but to me, Karen Reed's Lexus did not scrape up his arm, batter his head front and back, toss him 20 feet or whatever it was in the air up onto the lawn. This is like O.J. Revisited. Enough of this charade. Who did this? Is the O'Keefe family going to accept defeat, appeal again, and either way, never entertain any other possibility as to who might have done this to their son or uncle? Those two little kids who lost their parents and then their uncle and guardian. I think he got beaten up inside that house and he went out to die on the lawn. Joe, the prosecution rested last week. They hit the crescendo with Dr. Judd Welcher, accident reconstructionist and biomechanical engineer. He was a disaster, this guy. Tell me why you disagree.
So that's an earful, and it's certainly your opinion to have. And I don't know by what metric you measure your success, but I'm sure that there is a connection between those media outlets pushing the conspiracy and increase in viewership, followership, clicks, whatever it is, however you measure your ratings and your success. Look, this is...
Don't accuse me of whipping the algorithm, but if it helps, and it does, hey, come on. Get the Bushman some money here. I'm on my own now.
This is a prosecution that has an enormous amount of physical evidence. It has an enormous amount of data-driven evidence. It has circumstantial evidence. Let me just tell you why you're wrong and why your accusations and your claims and opinions are groundless and unsubstantiated.
Fire away, counselor.
By Karen Reed's own vehicle data, she leaves the Waterfall Bar and Grill at 12:12 that night. They have her going past 34 Fairview and doing a three-point turn at a street called Cedar Crest at around 12:23. They can now timestamp it and date stamp it because they have the SD card from her car they didn't have in the first trial. At the same exact time, John O'Keefe's phone is in that car, and they can calculate a time variant of 21 to 29 seconds between his phone and the time clock on her vehicle. They can then establish that that car arrives at 34 Fairview at approximately 12:24 to 12:25 in the morning. They are in that car for approximately 6 minutes, a point not disputed by the defense at this trial because they cannot. They have John O'Keefe getting out of that car by his phone at around 12:31:56. At 12:31:38, her car registers a triggering event, according to the text stream data and the event data recorder. She depressed her gas pedal 75% in reverse, and it went in reverse for at least 54 feet at 34 Fairview. John O'Keefe is out of the car at 12:09. His phone is utilized for the last time, and at 12:16, it never moves again. When you account and reconcile that 21 to 29 second variant, it is unequivocal that Karen Reed's car is backing up at the same time John O'Keefe's phone moves for the last time. And by the way, in a point that wasn't disputed by the defense, his phone only moves for 20 seconds in only 34 steps when he gets out of that car.
This is a very tight area. This is the geofencing on this is too tight of an area to be conclusive. How do you decide? First of all, The bite marks on the arm. Okay, the defense witness today. There's not a chance that Alexis is, and look they're not all in the same direction. There's a couple shooting up in a vertical sense. There's not a chance that Alexis backing up at 24 miles an hour is going to put those kind of marks on this guy's arm. It's not possible. There's what part of the car?
Of course it is. And here's why. Look, if you notice.
And no body wounds down below the neck, nothing to the torso, just the arm? He hit the arm only?
Billy, I know you got to be discerning here, and you got to really pay attention to this evidence. And if you heard Judd Welcher, all of the injuries on John O'Keefe were on the right side. Those marks line up exactly with a pronated arm with the rear tail light, which was broken, in which pieces of were found around the scene and John O'Keefe's body.
You don't mean the broken taillight that was
on the right side matches up with the spoiler on the car. There were sharp shards of that taillight, the polycarbonate taillight, and other pieces of glass all over the scene.
Shards this long, this high, like a foot and a half length of shards. That's not possible. A taillight's only this big anyway.
Remember, according to the medical examiner, these were only lacerations, and they follow an exact linear pattern that lines up with his arm and that taillight. But aren't you ignoring a big piece of this? Karen Reed's taillight, about 30% of it was missing. Not just at the scene where it was left. There was on the ring video at 5 a.m., she leaves One Meadows, and her taillight is clearly damaged and broken. Michael Proctor.
I don't see that. I see her back into I see her back into John O'Keefe's car that's parked there in the driveway.
And
hit it.
Archer, the defense's own experts concluded that couldn't have contributed to the damage. She was going too slow. And the prosecution's expert bought the exact replica of the car and demonstrated and proved that incident captured there could not have been the cause of the damage to the glass. You also got to look at the pristine snow. Not a single piece of rear taillight was left. At 8 a.m., there was a
How come they didn't find any taillight when the Canton police officer was the first guy to inspect the scene? He didn't see any taillight. It didn't show up until later when Michael Proctor got on the scene. Michael Proctor, the same guy who had the Lexus in the Sallyport garage of the Massachusetts State Police. He's in there, and he's 42 minutes of tape is missing of him back there behind that taillight, Krowski. I'm telling you.
Facts matter. So let me finish. They did a well-being check at One Meadows at 8:30 in the morning, and that car was caught on cruiser cam, clearly missing 15 to 20% of that rear taillight. From Meadows, Karen Reed's father and brother came and got the car. It has captured them on video, paying particular attention to that right taillight. The car goes to her father's address in Dighton. It's always on ring video. It is then transported to the Sallyport in Canton, Massachusetts. 7 members of the state police, including the CERT team, sailed off the crime scene at 34 Fairview before Michael Proctor ever came in touch with Karen Reed's
Kelly Devers of the Canton Police Department, a great woman. Everybody respects her service. She said it was very odd that Brian Higgins and Chief Berkowitz were alone in that Sallyport garage with that car for quite some time. Later on the day, John O'Keefe died.
You're missing the timeline. The car didn't get to the Sallyport till after 5 p.m. At 4:45, the CERT team from the state police, with no connection to these Canton police, had sailed off the scene at 34 Fairview. So who planted the taillight? What about Occam's principle? The easiest explanation is the one that's being alleged here. And you're also ignoring the DNA evidence, their hair evidence on the car, all of the data-driven evidence, and all of her admissions.
You don't find any evidence to be a little confusing, like the retired cop that lives across the street. His camera doesn't work. The dog has been rehomed. Who rehomes a dog after 6 years? Don't you rehome a dog after like 1? You know pretty well that there's something wrong with the dog. You don't wait 6 years, then you rehome it and it gets rehomed again, and it's probably dead now. Little Chloe is gone. There's pig DNA on those scratch marks on the arm, which suggests that whatever Chloe was eating or playing with as a chew toy destroy pig DNA? How does that come from Karen Reed's car? There's just so many things, and all you need
Let me respond
is
to that.
one person on the jury to say, yeah, I'm not buying it, and off she goes.
Let me respond to that. The story that had been pushed by the media that didn't really conduct a discerning review of the facts on the ground had pushed the unsubstantiated rumor that Chloe was in fact dead. Some people pushed the conspiracy theory that
why is
Chloe
she so hard to find?
Buried under the pool. Not only is Chloe very much alive, if you watch the pretrial hearings, the prosecution made Chloe available to the experts of the defense, and they declined. The prosecution would not be so reckless as to make a dog available.
We just want to know she's alive. Like, what's Chloe going to say?
What's that?
I said we just want to know that Chloe's alive, because what is she going to say?
Chloe's
really?
alive.
But I would match the teeth mark. I mean, I would line up the teeth to the arm. See
the prosecution did that, and it didn't line up. And that's now the defense is fighting like heck to keep that out, and declined an invitation to have their experts do measurements of their own.
Krowski, how do you explain?
Are you coming around
Joe,
now?
No, Joe. How do you explain Brian Higgins and Brian Albert butt dialing each other at 2:30 in the morning after he goes to move cars, which he never moved at the Canton Police Department, because of course it's his job to move, government vehicles. He never did. He walked in. He's taking the steps. He looks like he didn't do anything while he was there. Then the butt dialing. Then the fact that the day before you had to preserve data, they threw away their phones. Both phones are missing. You don't have any trace of those. This all seems...
Starting? Sure.
It seems problematic. I mean, at least for one person to say, yeah, I'm not buying it.
So that's an earful. Do you want me? I can address them.
You've given me two earfuls.
Sure. So, first of all, Karen Reed, she starts making phone calls at 12:34, makes 57 phone calls.
Yeah, that's. I think that works in our favor. I'll tell you why. Because
no, it doesn't.
What kind of performance is that? You when you're covering up a murder, you're like, I'm going to call 53 times. I'm going to show, and then I'm going to transition from you motherfucking you cheating on me, you son of a bitch, to oh my God, John, where are you? And then she gets concerned. I mean, that's too much of an act.
It's either a contrived alibi or it's consistent with someone that's in a manic state. But she now claims that she saw him go in the house. 57 phone calls. Doesn't call anyone at Fairview. Tells a niece at 4:30 in the morning get hit by a plow. Tells Kerry Roberts at 5 in the morning, who has nothing to do with this, John's dead. 57 phone calls, not a single call to 911. And some butt dials.
Eight phone calls and many texts. But I'll tell you you said go into the house. Here's who should have gone into the house. Michael Proctor. One investigator, one police officer might want to check the house at some point. Interesting, Brian Albert doesn't come out of the house. The one guy who's got more training than anyone on the block in first response doesn't come out of the house at all to see, oh my God, look at all these sirens and people and ambulances, and there's a dead guy on my lawn. He doesn't come out?
Police actually went into the house. Brian Albert had been in New York that day. Brian Albert clearly had been drinking, came back to Canton, had been drinking. Look, empirically, my wife will say, hey, what about that lightning storm last night? And I'll say, what lightning storm? I want to get back to Higgins because it's important. Higgins preserved his phone for an appreciable amount of time. Actually called and confirmed that the preservation order had been denied by the court before he made a decision to get rid of that phone. As for going in the house, law enforcement did go in the house and they took a quick look around. But the facts on the ground they had Karen Reed admitting to first responders.
Nobody went in to investigate. Nobody investigated or asked any questions in the house. No, they didn't.
Because they didn't, because it was clearly a hit and run drunk driving accident that took place out on the front lawn. You have the driver of the car who was last seen with him with a broken taillight saying, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Not just to Jennifer McCabe.
Did I hit him? Is what they're saying. Did I hit him? Not I hit him.
Well, if you look at that clip that was played, according to Karen Reed at the documentary, she said, I know I said I hit him. I just don't think I said it as many times as they're saying I said it.
Krowski, you know
keep
what?
Keep going.
Now, you want me to keep going? Why does Brian Higgins throw his phone away the day before on a military base? Why does he drive to a military base, pull out the SIM card, and destroy the phone? When I'm getting a phone, I'm getting a new phone, I just throw it away. I throw away the phone. and I get the new phone. Or I hit reset. I don't destroy it. What's the point of destroying
things that happen in this case that I've never seen in my 25 years of doing criminal defense work happen, where the feds got involved. They were taking people's phones. They were looking through their private content of their phones. To his credit, and first of all, he cuts to that military base because he's former military all the time where he lives down the Cape, but he didn't destroy it until he was told the preservation order had been destroyed. I don't think anyone, law enforcement or private, should willingly give up all of the private content in the phone, especially the way it was being leaked and used to harass.
Didn't he destroy it the day before?
And destroy people.
Didn't he destroy it the day before the preservation order went into effect when they said, do not destroy anything? He said, well, I just did.
No, he initially had been told, and this was confirmed, that it had been denied when he destroyed the SIM card.
So they said you can destroy phones, and he went and did it? I think it's the reverse, Joe.
No, he said that he was told or informed that there was no preservation order. And again, there has to be evidence. Tell me what evidence you have that John O'Keefe went in the house.
Prosecution has to provide the evidence. The defense doesn't have to provide the evidence. They just need to express reasonable doubt, and they've done an enormous job of doing that.
But when you're raising a third-party claim that someone else might have done it, the law requires you to at least produce a modicum of evidence that someone else did it. And to this point in the trial, there's nothing putting John O'Keefe in the house. Not a single eyewitness out of, a dozen witnesses, including young kids that were there for a party, of Brian Alberts Jr.'s party. There's no physical evidence that puts him in the house. There's the quantum amount of the evidence all points to Karen Reed striking him. There's no one showing any animosity, acrimony, or motive to do any harm to John O'Keefe. And if you're going to...
Of course there is. Brian Albert. There's Brian Higgins has footage of him in the bar. He's motioning them, come outside, bro. Come outside, bro. And then he's texting Karen, and, he's obviously got a motive there. Or not obviously, but there could be a motive that he's texting Karen. They're sexting. By the way, she's not a lovely lady. I mean, she's texting this big guy Higgins, I'm flirting with him, and they got something going on together, but he wants to get her at the house. There's obviously some animosity between the two men over the woman.
So you think a calculated, sophisticated ATF agent with the type of training,
I don't see sophistication when I see Brian Higgins. Please, come on.
You think he's going to lure John O'Keefe to a house full of people, knowing Karen will be the one driving him?
No, this is not a premeditated thing. Joe, this is not a premeditated thing. I don't think anyone thinks. I think all of a sudden, it's definitely the dog. To me, it seems very clear the dog does that. He's fighting this and that, and then things just blow up when you're drunk and you've had 8 Jamesons and you're completely hammered like everybody was. That's a lot of alcohol these people drink. Cops drinking and driving, by the way, not good. All of them.
Hey, that's not a good look. But the problem is John O'Keefe, and the defense can't get around it. His phone moves for 20 seconds and then goes silent. And look at the battery temperature of the phone. It goes lower and lower and lower, stabilizes because it's under his body, and it corroborates with the timeline. As soon as they lift him up, the temperature starts to go lower again, and it starts registering and tracking movement on the healthcare data.
You and I are not going to agree.
Probably not.
But you're my favorite guest on this topic, I have to say, because, you are vehement in your defense of the prosecution, which I love.
I should disclose, in fairness, because, I do disclose on other programs. The way I got involved in this case was that Colin Albert, who had been accused, I did represent him, and I think it's only fair for your viewers to know that, because I do come to this case through that prism. I saw a young man that had been accused and harassed and accused of doing terrible things that he did not do. He was fully vetted, by the way, went to the federal grand jury without me being in the room. They grilled him for several hours, and no charges were ever filed against him. And to this day, there's not a single piece of evidence or witness that puts him and John O'Keefe within 5 miles of one another that night.
Defense attorney Krowski, would you say that you formed a bit of a bond with your client, Colin Albert, and stayed in touch? Have you texted with him since?
I don't keep in constant contact, but yeah, every once in a while.
You became fond of the family? Did you meet, in the process, you met the family, you met the mother, the father, you like them?
Look, I don't, that's private information, so I'm not going to get too deep into that. But I will tell you that was a kid that went through a heck of a lot, and he's shown remarkable resiliency from where he was to where he is now. And I'll leave it at that. But I've got to honor his privacy.
You and I agree. We stand up for the wrongfully accused, right?
We do.
Boom. We end right there. Criminal defense attorney Joe Krowski of Boston. Absolutely. Wouldn't you want this guy in your corner? He is an absolute tiger. Love it. Thank you very much. And if you see John Hayes or Chris O'Donnell before me, say hello.
Have me back. It's a good time.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. You're the best. Thank you, Joe.
Take care.
Thank you so much. How great is he, huh? Did we love Joe Krowski or what? I love the name Krowski. Joe Krowski, right here. He's tough. He's smart. He's got a great record.
He's a good Boston boy. I felt like being from Boston, like I think I've drank with him several times or someone exactly like that.
Oh, yeah. Now, that's the guy you want to sit next to at a Red Sox game and just have a hot dog and a few too many beers and put your arm around him, just, take a selfie, have a good time.
Also, that was a good match. I had the early rounds. I had two 10-9s for Joe, but then you came back strong in the middle there, I would say, with a couple rounds.
Yeah, he thought he had me on the mat like several times, and he's like, is that it? And I'm like, no, that's not it, Joe. And listen, I'm studied on this darn thing. I don't think I'd be the best lawyer, but not the worst.